the release of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Wakanda forever!
Oh, good grief. Are you going to keep doing that?
Yeah, you want to keep saying it? You got to keep doing it.
The release of Black Panther 2 brings an end to Phase 4 of the MCU.
Hey, but wait, you know what that means though? That means it is time.
Wait, don't tell me we're not doing one of those top Marvel movie episodes, are we?
No, what? We wouldn't do something so basic, something that's been out there. That's too redundant.
So what are we doing?
We're doing our top 5. I mean, that's not. Oh, hey, wait, and we're also doing our least favorite MCU.
How original.
Yeah, I thought so. I'm glad you agree. In a movie galaxy of the YouTube universe, you've landed on Frame Rate Studio, your guide for all things movies. I'm Corey.
And I'm Chad. In all seriousness, though, everybody likes to discuss and debate their favorite Marvel movies, and we're no different.
So we sat down and we each came up with our top 5 list, as well as one we consider to be the worst so far.
Given how different we review movies sometimes, this could be an interesting one.
So what was your criteria for what did or did not qualify?
For me, it was anything that's been in Phase 1 through 4 of the MCU so far. So that excludes things like Deadpool. Granted, he's going to be in there eventually, but not till Phase 6. You know, with Spider-Man No Way Home, of course, they bring in Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, but those don't get included because those aren't, to me, technically part of the MCU, as well as, you know, Venom. And but not that those probably would have affected much other than maybe my bottom movies. So those are my criteria. What criteria did you use to decide what goes in here?
My criteria wasn't much different. It had to be through phases 1 through 4. Didn't involve anything that was outside of the Disney franchise of them. Didn't include any of the television series. It was truly the movies. I would have considered Tom Holland's Spider-Man, but there was only one to really consider, and it actually didn't make my top 5.
The one thing I do want to start out and let you all know from the start of this before we start getting into our top 5 and our worst is that this episode is going to have lots of spoilers. We can't talk about movies in the MCU and try and avoid spoilers at this point.
To give you a feel of how this is going to go, it's going to go started at our 5th favorite to our 4th, 3rd, and 2nd. Then before we get to our best, we'll give you our worst movie. And we'll also do some honorable mentions in there. But my number 5, mine is the one that kicked off the whole entire franchise, the whole MCU, and that is Iron Man. I was very impressed with it because I didn't expect anything to happen. Iron Man never, he's a kind of a popular character, but he's not in the forefront. So why they started with him, it's understandable because it wouldn't have been a huge loss and they could have possibly retried again, but it worked. The story was tremendous. To have Robert Downey Jr. come in, who had this horrible back history on him from doing his jail time, the drugs. He was someone that had a really big black mark on his
Permanent record?
Well, that too. No. On his bankability. No one really wanted to take a chance on him. And this really stirred him back, brought him right back into the forefront. One other thing that was really interesting that really made this stand out for me also is when I was rewatching and thinking about it, this was done by Marvel Studio. Disney was not involved here yet. And the special effects for such a kind of a small studio, top of the line. Great job. It was impressive for what it was.
Yeah, I mean, it started out, it was the main studio that was backing it from the beginning was Paramount, which is surprising because Paramount, outside of, at least here recently, outside like Mission Impossible movies, they hadn't really been doing a lot of big movies. There was a lot of small stuff. They weren't a very big studio, so that they took a gamble on this as well is the surprising thing. So, my number 5, and for each of these I have kind of a header for each of them, and I call this one the one with the ending. That would be Avengers Infinity War. So, for this one, this hit the ground running and just really never stopped, obviously, until the end when, poof, half the cast disappears. It was a lot of fun, obviously, but also had a dramatic tone to it. Of course, lots of fan service when you're combining all of these characters into one movie. The story is just so well balanced between the dramatic moments and the comedy. It's able to maintain a focus on all of these different storylines, never lingers on one of them too long, and is able to give them all the right amount of time on the screen. And as I let it off, the ending of this movie is a masterpiece. And when I see the end, I'm talking about starting from where Thanos uses the time stone and rewinds time, and he rips the stone out of Vision's head, and we get the color fade out of him, a la Optimus Prime in the 1986 animated Transformers movie. Just such a gut punch. And then you go from that to when, Tom Holland, who's just such a good actor, he fades out of existence, and just that moment between him and Tony. And then, at the very end, just Steve's kind of helplessness when he just goes, "Oh, God."
Oh, God.
And it just goes to the end at that point. It was so well done, so well acted, just so brutal as well. It was just, I really liked it. It's what really cinched it for me.
It's definitely worth being in a top 5 because the magic that Feige went through just to be able to bring the world together, bring the universe together, it just worked. As we can see over time, DC is having a hard time doing it. There was a universe already set for Star Wars, and they're having a hard time with it. So Feige's to do that in Infinity War, great job. My number 4 is Thor Ragnarok. I do love the comedy in it. It was one that, as you mentioned, there's a lot of comedy. And this one has a whole different level. It relies on the comedy. That's a huge part of it. But it works. And the story was really great also. Once again, you get to have Loki coming back. You get to see them working on their relationship again. The entertainment value of just how he identifies Loki with, Loki's hiding out as their father, as Odin. And then after they, kind of mend things, they go find Odin. And then you have to deal with him turning into fireflies. And then in comes Helena. And wow, and then it starts off with the narrating that is, you kind of wondering who is he talking to, and then it's the skeleton, which is hilarious. And just the destruction of their planet, of their world. Taika had this great vision, and he got it to work.
While probably the Hulk is never going to get another movie of his own, because it's still a Universal property, it was nice to see him in it, and, it was kind of a buddy cop picture. So it was very entertaining. I think I probably didn't have it in there because it was a little bit too much comedy for me, while it was still very well done. So for me, number 4, I put this one as fun and unexpected. And that was Guardians of the Galaxy. I remember when I first saw the trailers for this, and I was like, and really even before the trailers, first heard about it, and it's like, okay, so it's a movie with a talking tree and a talking raccoon?
Oh, yeah.
Oh boy. I thought this was where possibly Marvel was going to start going off the rails and everything. I thought this was where it was going to be a problem. But this is just such a fun ride. It just a great time from start to finish. And along with that, it's a movie that has so much heart to it. I mean, I think that's the big thing. This is a movie about them really kind of coming together as a family. I think probably the scene that personifies that best, the scene where they're on the ship, trying to decide if they're going to go to Xandar and stop Ronan from basically destroying Xandar, and basically, they all stand up, and then Rocket at the very end goes, "Great, we're all standing now." They've all come together, but yet Rocket, of course, has to throw in this like, "Great, fantastic." Don't we look like idiots?
All standing up now. Bunch of jackasses standing in a circle.
It's just like I said, it's a great story that closes all of its loops, so to speak. It sets up the next one very well, and really a lot of where the MCU went and is still going. And it's very rewatchable. This probably is the one which I know you're going to be like, why isn't it your top movie? But this is probably the one that I will most often just sit down and watch over and over again.
Yeah, I was just impressed by the ensemble that they brought in. I mean, this large cast so early on in a way of building this where they're taking a risk for Infinity War. Like, how are you going to get this to work? And yet now they do it on a standalone movie where you don't have time to, it doesn't seem like you have time to build character. Yeah, I can agree.
On to your number 3, sir.
Actually, why don't you go give your number 3?
Okay. It's interesting. I'm not sure why we're going. Okay, well, anyway.
I go first. I've gone first every single time.
Okay. So we're changing it up. Anyway, so number 3 for me, I call this one solid from top to bottom, and that would be the first Avengers. Once again, this is the crossover movie, kind of what you're talking about with Iron Man. So once we had Iron Man, we started getting these movies, and you get Iron Man with the scene with Nick Fury at the end. Of course, we're all giddy and excited and like, this is amazing. But also, I was sitting there and going, how are you going to make this work? We're trying to cover this many characters. You have all the egos that you have to satisfy of the actors that are involved, as well as producers and writers and studios. I mean, you brought it up earlier that, it didn't originally start with Disney. They didn't buy Marvel until 2009. So that the studios were able to work together and bring this out is just an amazing thing to me. So, once again, just like with Guardians of the Galaxy, I was very wrong.
Wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong.
To be skeptical about this, that it was possible that it wasn't going to do what it ended up doing and kicking all of this off. Once again, you hear me say this a lot. I'm the story guy. The story is, once again, very well balanced between all the different storylines they're trying to tell. It hits the right points as far as, the characters' story arcs and their development and what they go through, as far as the development of, Steve and Tony's relationship and the tough part of that and everything. And, of course, we get to see the Hulk again. Obviously, if you can't tell, he's probably one of my favorite characters out of it all. So, yeah, just great story. So well acted. Very well acted by all the actors that are in it.
Again, I'll say what I said about Guardians of the Galaxy, how I can agree with it. They brought in an ensemble of number of characters. This one now, you've seen all the characters developed, but yet you're still going, they are so different. And again, applauds to Feige for making it work.
Yeah, I mean that they did all come together, and basically it was the development of them coming together as a team. That's, I think, what he does well in all these movies. That all the movies of the MCU is find a good way to get these teams to come together that you wouldn't expect to come together.
My number 3 is I so much wanted it to be number 1, but this is the one that I'll sit down and I can watch over and over, and that's Doctor Strange. I love the character and the arc of it. You get to see that transformation in Tony Stark as in Iron Man, how he's got this arrogant attitude and
Sometimes just can't help myself.
Nick is a great
thinks he
doctor.
can do no wrong and all these types of things, has answers for all. But I feel as though watching Doctor Strange, you get to see more because he's also dealing with an actual relationship that's broken and he's trying to save it. Whereas Tony, he didn't have a relationship to save. He just was, he was a playboy. But you get to see Stephen Strange, Dr. Stephen Strange, rebuild his relationship, even though we see it doesn't last in the second Strange. All his supporting cast is great. Wong, the Ancient One, just everyone that's in there with him is wonderful.
Yeah, I thought Doctor Strange was good, not great. I mean, I definitely had a good time. I think the visuals in that are fantastic. I mean, it was. I did really like it though because we finally started going down, the mystic side of things and into the magic realm of things, which are going to be so important for Phase 4, for obviously has been important for Phase 4 and will be for Beyond. So I do find it interesting up to this point though that we haven't had anything that's been a repeat. So I find that very, very interesting. Obviously, once again, like I said, coming at it from very different viewpoints. I bring that up as a spoiler, if you will, for my number 2 because...
Hey, we've just come to realize that this video is running long and there's no way we can do our top 5 in just one video. So we're cutting this into 2. Join us next week as we finish off our countdown. You don't want to miss what is the one movie that we really wish the MCU had never made. Let us know in the comments what you've thought of our countdown. Until then, Frame Rate Studio wants to thank you for joining us on our journey through the movie galaxy of the YTU.